Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Deal. Late New Year's Eve night, the fellas just in our basement talking some Penn State football. Wouldn't want to be doing anything else on my New Year's Eve. Big day for the Big Ten, big day for Penn State, rolling past Boise State. Dill, I think there's a couple of conversations I want to get into. One, I don't think Penn State played their best football tonight. Still won pretty handily. Now, that first quarter of Penn State, if you get that version of Penn State specifically on offense over the next couple of games, there's no doubt in my mind that this team can win a national championship. Drew made some throws that made your jaw drop. Can he find that level of consistency over the next couple of games? That's probably the question
and
that
his
you're looking at.
too, because he put some balls out there that were legitimate high-level throws. They got to come up with a couple more of those because I look, even Tyler Warren, and he's been awesome, so you can't really criticize him.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of plays that were not Drew leaving plays on the field. Those pass catchers, I think, again, need to continue to kind of elevate their game and give him a little bit, not give him more help, just when he gives them chances to make big-time plays, they got to make them.
And that's the story for me. You know, can these pass catchers on the outside come up with some of those plays? If you get that, like, this Penn State team is as dangerous as any in the college football playoffs. And Dill, I think a good place to start this conversation, and we're going to get into what we just saw from Penn State, you're going to find out your opponent tomorrow night. And I would love to hear from the Penn State fans in the comment section too. Georgia, Notre Dame, if you're a Penn State fan, who do you want to see in the semifinals?
Probably Georgia, and it's tight. Like, I look at that game, it's a 1-point spread. Like, that's probably pretty accurate. I think they're both teams that are somewhat limited on the offense side of the ball for like a college football playoff standard team. Both play very good defense and are physical and want to run the ball. I think people are sleeping on how big of an injury that Riley Mills injury as the D tackle for Notre Dame is. Because I don't know that they're super deep. I mean, he plays a zillion snaps. He's been playing a zillion snaps all year. In losing him, I think that's a huge one. So I look at two really comparable teams. I think with that injury, I'd probably rather see.
So you rather see Notre Dame. You started with Georgia, went Notre Dame, kind of confused me a little bit.
I may have confused myself. I would rather see Notre Dame.
I'm with you. Now, I will say, and for me, it's more just like, I don't know if I want to see Georgia in the college football playoffs. Like, that's a team that's been there in a lot of spots. I think they're two great matchups. You know, if you had to choose some of the teams that you wanted to see in the semifinals, if you're Penn State, it's probably starting with Georgia and Notre Dame, because what do those two teams want to do on offense, especially with Georgia going to the quarterback too? They're going to want to run the football. Penn State, you got a lot of people making noise on Twitter about Ashton Jeanty when he goes up against a good defense. He's not that good of a running back. Look, Ashton Jeanty is that guy. It's just Penn State's front seven is one of the best in the country at stopping the run. That had little to do with Ashton Jeanty, had a lot more to do with this Penn State front seven. I think they're two really good matchups still. Like those are the teams that if I'm Penn State, I'd want to play. Now,
I just don't want to be in a shootout. I think that's still, if I'm Penn State, like, I'd rather get in a little bit more of a gutter fight, and I think that's where Franklin.
I wouldn't even say it's a gutter fight, because look, we just saw Penn State go toe to toe with Oregon.
No, but that's the difference. I think Penn State, why they're dangerous is they can do it both ways.
Great.
I think I like just that their defense is so good and they create the negative plays they create and they can take the ball away. I think they're slightly better set up to win those gutter fights that like a Georgia or Notre Dame's going to try to take them.
I don't like that you're calling them gutter fights. As a Big Ten fan, they ain't gutter fights.
It is what it is. Like those low scoring, grind them out games, fine. I think Penn State is built to thrive in that situation. But you're right. Like, what makes Penn State legitimately dangerous is they have the firepower on offense to legitimately go bang with big offenses.
Yeah, it do. I think that's a nice segue to talk about Drew. First quarter, Drew, that's a 1-1 pick in the NFL draft. I mean, so the throw to the back of the end zone to Tyler Warren, the first one, and then the 60-yard bomb, and then you get the back shoulder to Tyler Warren for the third touchdown. Drew made some elite NFL caliber throws. Now the conversation is, hey, we need that for the next 8 quarters of this football season. And if you get that version and you get some of the playmakers on the outside making plays for Drew, this team is extremely dangerous. But you make no mistake about it. Like, the meat of this Penn State team is running the football, which they did a phenomenal job doing. One thing I'll say, that 2 running back set, I would like to see Coach K go to that a little bit more because one, you look at from a pure personnel standpoint, like outside of Tyler Warren, who are the 2 best players on your football team on the offensive side of the football? It's Katron, it's Nick Singleton. You want to get them both on the football field, ideally at the same time. Number 2, they can do a lot of different things out of that set. And it makes, yes, Penn State's offensive line is moving bodies, but I think Coach Koldenicki is designing a great offense. I mean, you see outside zone, that was working in the first half. They went to some pin and pull. They went to some inside zone. It was all working. This Penn State team can run it from so many different ways. Makes it really hard on a front seven to deal with this rushing attack. That's kind of the recipe if you're Penn State. The one knock that I have in my notes, too many negative plays. And again, I felt like that was a little like, I love Coach Cole. There's probably not an offensive coordinator I like more. Like as a Michigan fan, we were just trying to hire one. I would have loved Coach Koldenicki. It felt like they got cute at times. You know, one thing I love is that Penn State has injected a lot of creativity into this offense. It's made them a better football team. This kind of game right here, I don't think you had to get all that creative. You were moving bodies off the line of scrimmage. That run game was working, doing pretty much anything you wanted. When they got to some of that creativity, they started taking some negative plays, getting off script a little bit. You take out that part of this game for Penn State, they play quite well on offense.
And honestly, there's times for it because I look like
Yes.
as much as even in that Oregon game, they were physically imposing themselves to a pretty good extent on the offensive line, throwing in the wrinkle of Drew Allard being able to run and keeping some like that really did mess with Oregon's team. So again, I don't know that you want to get away from it because you said it like that creativity and that a little like something extra that Koldenicki's brought to this team. I mean, that puts them in a position to win national championships.
Yes.
Unlike it did last
I
year.
guess what I'm
But
trying to
but if you're getting on a team like they were getting on Boise
yeah,
State, and they weren't really
exactly.
having to do a whole lot. They could just kind of run their base run scheme. I'm kind of with you. Like it did feel like in that second quarter, and then they got back to it. It felt like later in the game, but
Great.
in that second quarter, it was like, what are like, why are we doing these like throwbacks and all
Yeah.
this? Yeah,
I
like,
mean, at that
I wanna
point, Bill, I looked at the box score when I thought to myself, we're getting too cute. Katron Allen was averaging 12 yards per carry. So I'm like,
crazy.
look, I like getting creative at times, not when my running back's averaging 12 yards per carry. One other thing, some of the negative plays came from not picking up some of the stunts and games that Boise State was running and some A-gap blitzes from the linebackers. If Georgia wins that football game tomorrow night, you got to clean that up because you're going to see a lot of A-gap stuff from them Georgia Bulldogs. You want to make sure you clean that up. Outside of that, they were moving the ball on offense. It just felt like sometimes they were shooting themselves in the foot. They had an opportunity to really step on the neck. I think they were up 14-0. They got the ball back. They fumbled. Then they got the ball back again. Sounded like they were driving, go to a trick play on third down. This could have gotten out of hand. And I think Penn State probably beat themselves more than Boise State did to kind of keep Boise State in the football game, you might say. And no disrespect to Boise State, because I thought kind of transitioning to the Penn State defense, thought Maddox Maxson played a really good game. Now, he obviously turned the football over a few times, trying to do a little bit when Boise State was down. We went into this football game saying, hey, stop Ashton Genty. You probably stop this Boise State offense, which was true to an extent. And Penn State did a nice job of that. Maddox Madsen made some really good throws, and you got to give him credit for moving the football a little bit more than I expected Boise State was going to. When you look at this Penn State defense, what stood out to you the most from their performance?
And obviously their ability to create the negative plays, that is where it starts and stops. I felt like
Agreed.
they did a good job with that again. The one thing again, and it's kind of been the case all years, they do give up some completions because they play hyper aggressive. But again, I think when they marry that with their ability to create negative plays and also take the ball away, which they're obviously doing a fair amount this year, I'm okay. I can kind of live with what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to criticize anything that Penn State's
And
done.
it was hard for Penn State to get to some of those negative plays. I thought Boise State did a nice job with the quick game. Hey, even with Abdul Carter out and shot at a Vanover, he came in and had a game. And he looks just like Abdul Carter, too. Like long, twitchy athlete. Dennis Sutton on the other side. Boise State did a nice job kind of working to the quick game, saying, hey, we got question marks just like every other Power 4 program in the country would have. picking up this Penn State pass rush. We're going to get the ball out quick and hot. And they were able to put some drives together. But again, those negative plays that Penn State's able to create and put Boise State into those second, third, and longs, those kind of killed off the drives. It's hard. The thing that stood out to me was the team speed. I mean, it just seemed like they were swarming to the football, and that's kind of how you have to deal with Ashton Genty. Like, he's going to make the first two people miss pretty much every single time. If you want to have success with them, you got to swarm to the football. Penn State was all over the place. I mean, that speed in the front seven is next level. And one thing that I think they could have some success against Georgia/Notre Dame with is going to a little bit more pressure looks with man coverage on the outside. I think they have the secondary to do that. They went to it against Boise State and said, hey, we think our guys can cover up your guys. They had some success doing so. I don't look at Notre Dame or Georgia's wide receivers and say they're going to have a ton of success against Penn State's defensive backs. I wonder if you can get to some of those, that pressure with man behind it, and just say, hey, do you have good enough wide receivers to beat our defensive backs? Because I look at Georgia and Notre Dame and say, I don't know if y'all do. Now, if you play Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, it might be a little bit of a different story because they got some dudes. But I look in kind of an early preview to that football game. I'm saying I wouldn't mind seeing Penn State do a little bit more of that because I think they have the defensive backs to hold up.
And then I think you get that completion percentage down because that's probably, again, the one thing you've seen at times from Penn State is you look at even a game like Illinois where they were able to complete some passes today against Boise State when they were getting the quick game going a little bit. And just, again, it's not like they're picking up big plays. They're not moving the ball a lot and they're not scoring because, again, Penn State can always kind of put the trump card on you and get a sack, get a turnover, like those type of things that are certainly in their bag. But I'm kind of with you. When you go play a team that can't challenge you at all on the outside, and I'm not sure either team, Notre Dame or Georgia, can do it, I would imagine you can play a little bit of a different style of defense and maybe some things Penn State's been doing.
Yeah, really solid. I mean, it is, I would say, solid performance. They don't think it was a brilliant performance, but I think Penn State knows they probably got to play some better football going forward. You see the glimpses of a national championship team, and this is what it comes down to in January. All these teams have the capability of winning a national championship. Now it's about playing your best football for the next 8 quarters. That's where Penn State's at. We'll get out of here on that. Appreciate you guys. Happy New Year's. You got what, 30, 25, 26, 26 minutes till that ball drops. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.